Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your Sun in Leo and Capricorn rising. I have been doing the combos of Sun and Moon and also Sun and Rising sign because both of these can have certain impacts on the personality. And they're a little bit different. Sometimes you might see some overlapping themes. But I was looking and I saw that I had the opposite version, but I didn't have this version. So anyway, I'm going to just talk about what the rising sign represents because it's really important to distinguish it from the sun sign. When you're talking about personal points, and this can include the moon and even Mercury, Venus, or Mars, there can be some things that are similar that you would see maybe with the sun in the same sign, but there will always be like slight little differences. So the rising sign is how you behave when you are in a social situation. Some people characterize it as your social mask, or kind of like this persona that you develop. I don't really like to say things like mask and persona that implies anything like a facade. I should say facade, not really. Persona is more of a general thing, like personality, but like a facade because it implies that somebody is being fake and that they're really not like that. And it's not really that the person is putting on an act. It's that they have certain parts of themselves that kind of come to the forefront. And when I have been kind of like contemplating why this happens, I feel that is a defense mechanism, especially if the sun and the rising sign are very far apart in terms of when I say far apart, I mean that they are not on the same page. And Leo and Capricorn, I believe, form an in conjunction, which means that they're 150 degrees apart. I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, they do. And what that means is that it's supposed to be two signs that are completely incompatible, disjointed, have nothing in common. Well, that's not really true. I have always tried to find common ground between these, between an in conjunction, two signs that form an in conjunction. And with Leo and Capricorn, I find that they both are success oriented, they have leadership abilities, and so because of that, they, ambitious, I think, what did I say? I know, success oriented, that is ambition. And so I can't see it as them not having, anything whatsoever in common. So I actually believe that the rising sign can really give some insight into the family of origin, and that influence can be felt until the person experiences their first Saturn return around the age of 30, late 20s, around the age of 30. And I did read something where it said that the rising sign is quite influential, and they mentioned around the age of 30, so I figured they were talking about the first Saturn return, because that's when a person in their, what I would call a younger adult may feel like they finally have grown up to a large extent, and they feel like they have a lot more responsibility in life. And so anyway, when somebody has Capricorn rising, there are many ways that this can express itself, regardless of the sun sign. One way is that the person can feel a sense of deprivation because Saturn is a ruler of Capricorn, and so that means that Saturn is your ruler. Now you can also say that the sun is your ruler, because the sun sign's ruler is also attributed to our us as our ruler, simply because it is such an influential element of our chart, our sun signs. So, but the Saturn is definitely your chart ruler, and what that means is that Saturn can be a feeling of lack. So that could indicate for some people that they grow up with austerity or a cold environment. When I say austerity, I was thinking of financial restriction, but it could be just in terms of the person's emotional atmosphere, that there's a coldness. Maybe a person with Saturn as a ruler oftentimes finds that they have to fend for themselves in some way. Even if they grow up in a mansion and they have, maids, servants, whatever you want to call it, housekeeper, that they do not feel like they have this kind of parental guidance in some cases. Or maybe they have an authoritarian kind of environment that feels very, very restrictive. And being a Leo sun sign, this can be difficult because you're warm, fire is warm, earth is dry, Saturn is cold, and earth is dry. So you may feel this sense of deprivation in some way. And Lord knows that a Leo would feel deprivation if you came from economically depressed circumstances or in an environment that was economically depressed. Maybe it's not just your own household, but the whole area that you live in. And so in those cases, I could see a Leo person saying, I can't wait until I become an adult because I'm going to get the heck out of this town and I'm going to go somewhere else, because fire is expansive. Leo is a fire sign, and it's a fixed fire sign, which means that the fixed signs are very good at sustaining effort. The cardinal signs like Capricorn are very good at initiating effort. So this is a powerhouse combination for someone to achieve great things, because not only do you have the drive or the we would say taking the initiative, which means you even you're your own like a self-starter. I'm going to say the catalyst, but then you can keep going, because some people they can start well, but they don't finish well because they quit midstream. It's very easy for them to just lose interest or just feel discouraged, and then they're not persistent. Somebody who's persistent, more times than not, they're going to achieve their efforts, because it's like the tortoise and the hare. And this rising sign can be very resourceful, which means that it doesn't really matter, but if you had to fend for yourself, you could have found ways to, do things for yourself from a young age. And even though it can be very difficult sometimes for young people to grow up without a lot of parental support, one of the bright sides in that is that the child learns how to become resourceful instead of like the overprotective parent who does everything for the child. And that can lead to a child who, in some cases, they even can find ways to make money when they're young. And this combination might be a great business mogul at some point because they start with maybe ways that they want to make money. And one of the reasons that might kind of motivate them is because Leo loves to have luxury, nice things. And part of this is, or maybe a lot of this, has to do with Leo wanting to seem successful. I'll talk about the sun sign because that is going to be what you grow into at some point. And Leo is a natural leader. It is the ruler of the fifth house of love, creativity, children, the business that you own, so a natural entrepreneur. And this is the house of pleasure. So Leos are like big kids. They love to have a lot of fun because it rules this house of fun. However, because you have Capricorn rising, you may have begun life with a much more serious demeanor. And what they say about Capricorn is that they grow younger as they grow older. And so I would say the same thing for the rising sign. Usually I'm seeing this about the sun sign of Capricorn, but I'm sure that would apply as well. And so what happens is that it's possible that you retain that serious nature your whole life, but you loosen up to some degree. You also have to look at some of these inner planets, because if you have them, and the moon can be any sign, it's not dependent on your sun sign. But if you have the moon in a water sign or an earth sign, you might be more serious as well. But by itself, Leo is a sign that is very, like I said earlier, very affectionate or warm. It's very positive. It's very extroverted. And this combination can make the person more reserved because Saturn is Saturnine. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but kind of like that melancholy or very maybe that overly serious nature, business-like. But, I would say that this combination can give a mature impression when the person is young, where they seem older than their years. And so they can kind of like project an air of competency, which can make it good for, like, if you want to get hired when you're a teenager, you may come across as very level-headed, mature, professional, and this can carry over into adulthood, and so it can serve you well. But Leo wants to be fun-loving. Leo doesn't want that kind of wet blanket or dour demeanor. So chances are, as you get older, because this is why they say this about Capricorn getting younger, as you achieve all the things that you want to achieve, you can become less serious because you feel more comfortable in your own skin. You feel like you are not having to prove yourself, and then you will be more relaxed, I would say. If other factors support it, you may be on the shy side. If your moon, let's say your moon is in Cancer or something like that, or some other sign that might be timid, inhibited, like Virgo, this may make you an atypical Leo individual because Leo is sandwiched between two signs, Cancer and Virgo, and both of those signs can be rather timid. And so if you have personal planets in either of those signs, the moon can be any sign. Maybe the moon is in Pisces or something. And you keep reading about how, how Leo is the life of the party and you can't understand that. Or if your sun sign is in the 12th house. No, wait, scratch that. That can't happen. I say that in general when people hear about their sun signs. If their sun is in the 12th house, even if they're a fire sign, they're supposed to be extroverted. It doesn't work that way. But you can't have Leo in the 12th house because Capricorn is rising. But yeah, if there's different positions where it can be like, and even connected to aspects that can kind of dampen that fire a little bit. But I feel that as you get older, you might grow more into the Leo nature and feel less restricted and maybe more interested in expressing yourself in a creative way if when you're younger that doesn't happen. One way that can play out is if, for instance, the person is coming from an economically deprived background and they work from a young age and maybe they get successful and then they go into something creative. Maybe they were in a business, and business can be creative, but I mean something that we typically don't see as like artistic, for instance. And then they're able to do what they really want to do, but their first goal is to make a lot of money, for instance, and then move on from there. So when I talk about potential careers, I usually don't include the rising sign, but I will say with Leo, typically there's so many things that Leo people would be great at. I do say creative professions, especially where it pertains to the performance arts, because Leo is a natural ham. However, because Capricorn is at the ascendant, there may be this kind of a restrictive quality which makes you less inclined to actually put yourself on stage. So it could be maybe it's in some other type of connection to the arts, or if it's in like painting or voiceover work or something like that. Apart from show business, there could be, or creativity, you might be a great teacher because anything with public speaking is natural for you. And because you have this Capricorn influence that's very strong, the Capricorn is the father, Saturn is the father, and so it can be the mentor. Saturn is father time, so it really is like the authority figure, and Saturn rules the 10th house, which can involve career but also authority figures. So that is a natural for someone like you. And I said it earlier, like definitely with this combination, entrepreneurship or business related endeavors in general, even if like a corporate type of a job, maybe, I think that would be right up your alley. Maybe even like politics. I was going to say God forbid, but whatever. The combination of, Capricorn would be associated with any kind of structure like government. And then Leo is like I'd say the actor, talking about politicians. In terms of your love life, I wouldn't really go so far as talking about the rising sign, except to say that because the person may carry themselves in a certain way or present themselves in a certain way, you may attract earth and water signs, and that wouldn't necessarily be compatible with you. It's a certain way that you're behaving. However, again, looking at your moon sign, looking at your Venus and Mars, you may have it in maybe have Cancer placements, or you have Virgo placements, and that would tip the balance or tip the scales to the water and earth signs, and there would be more compatibility, I feel. But if you always are attracting earth and water signs and you find that you're not compatible with them, this is probably the reason why, or at least one of the reasons why. Leos tend to be very romantic and generous. And that's another thing, generosity, or how you handle money. Look to your Venus sign too for that, and even your moon sign, because the moon can indicate your security needs, and your Venus can indicate your, relationship with money too. And they may tip the scales to one way or the other. There's a wild difference between the spending habits of a Leo and a Capricorn. Capricorn's motto is "I conserve." I don't know what Leo's motto is, but Leo people like to live large, so they're not really inclined to be, and there's like a noble quality with Leo. The Leos do not like to be petty in general, so anything that involves like penny pinching is not really typical of Leo. So I don't know how that would, maybe when you're younger and you're up and coming, you might be more like the Capricorn and conservational, or whatever you want to call it, conserving your resources. And then as you get older and you get more affluent and you feel more comfortable, you step into that Leo nature. And I do think both of these signs are status conscious, and so you probably want to live in the community that is considered A-list environment or whatever. Capricorn is a sign that doesn't like to waste money, but they will spend it on things that are of a high quality. So a Capricorn individual does not just buy something with a designer label if it's a knockoff and it's, craptastic quality, so they will also favor clothing of a very kind of a classic style, not trendy. Leo is a little bit more ostentatious. So usually the rising sign affects how somebody dresses. So I would say that, because I would, when Leo is at the ascendant, if the Capricorn person has Leo ascendant, they might be much more flashy. I was going to say flashy, trashy, but yeah, when I say trashy, I don't really mean trashy, but people think of bright colors, and I always say like gold lame and stuff like that is kind of tacky. That's what I really meant. Not really trashy, but kind of tacky. But I love like bright colors as a fire sign, as a Sagittarian sun sign. But, a lot of people just are kind of into drab colors. And I think that if you're a Leo with Capricorn rising, you may be those types of Leos that prefer to be more muted in your color scheme. But who knows? Maybe as you get older, you get a little bit more wild. But yeah, favoring well-made clothing that's not trendy, that will stand the test of time, because the Saturn is for the long haul. But in any case, that's what I have for you. Oh, and I was going to say, with relationships, I do believe that this combination probably does favor marriage over kind of living together and whatnot, because Leo is a fixed sign, so once you fall in love with somebody, that's it. You're not kind of hedging your bets. And Capricorn rising, you may always have like a traditional streak in you. Maybe you're conservative by nature and you just favor what has come before. So this can make for a family-oriented person, for sure. And yeah, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.